challenges, in our opinion, seem to have overwhelmed our security institutions.
The governors are supposed to be the state security officers of their state.
There is need for us to at least engage the traditional rulers.
We need to do something about our porous borders.
We have to own it from the unit level to the ward level to the local government to state.
Mr. President, the importance of today for us is for us to take action.
Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
The bill seeks to promote and emphasize teaching, research, and extension of knowledge.
National Health Act scales third reading. Provides for private sector participation in healthcare delivery.
100.
I'm very angry and it's so disappointing.
And Senate committee frowns at the absence of critical stakeholders at meetings to discuss the challenges facing Nigeria's oil sector. Welcome to the program Inside the Senate, a program which brings you up to date with activities from the Senate plenary to committee activities. In this episode, we have reports of the third reading and passage of several bills, one of which is the Court of Appeal Act 2013 Amendment Bill 2022, which is seeking an increase of High Court judges from 90 to 110. We also have a report of an interactive session between the Committee on Petroleum Resources and stakeholders on the issue of subsidy, refineries rehabilitation, as well as oil theft. These and other matters in plenary last week make up our package. I am Hussaina Amina Aboki. Welcome to Inside the Senate.
The Senate will send a message to the President
To reap opportunities from that.
Today is a matter of urgent public importance, and we are aware that when this particular motion comes up,
for a longer term development, arise to second the motion.
Those in favor of this prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
Welcome back. Amongst the issues that engaged the attention of the Senate at the commencement of plenary session last week Tuesday, the 27th of September 2022, was the third reading and passage of the Court of Appeal Act 2013 Amendment Bill 2022.
With the provisions of the Nigerian Correctional Services Act,
Chairman of the Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters, Senator Bamidele Okoyemi, which worked on the bill, disclosed one of the reasons for the amendment as being to increase the number of justices of the Court of Appeal from 90 to 110. He spoke more on the amendment being sought.
one of the salient provisions of the new improvement on this bill is the aspect that seeks to integrate virtual court proceedings, which has become an integral part of our court proceedings in recent time.
With this, the Senate resolved into the Committee of the Whole, considered the report clause by clause, leading to the eventual passage of the bill.
Stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
Amend the National Act number 8 of 2014 to improve quality healthcare delivery.
Also presented for third reading were two health-related bills. The first was the National Health Act No. 8, 2014, Amendment Bill 2022, which has one of its objectives as being to improve healthcare delivery by including private sector participation. The second was the Federal University of Medicine and Medical Sciences, Egbe, Kogi State Establishment Bill 2022, which seeks to advance learning and higher education in the field of medicine and medical sciences. The report of the Committee on Health, which worked on both bills, was presented concurrently by Senator Sadiq Suleiman Umar on behalf of the chairman.
The bill seeks to promote and emphasize teaching, research, and extension of knowledge in the field of medicine and medical sciences, including extension services, outreach programs, in-service training, continuing education, and adaptive research. Offer academic program in relation to training of manpower in medical sciences and allied professions in Nigeria.
With this, the report was considered clause by clause in the Committee of the Whole, leading to their passage.
The ayes have it.
Several other bills were debated at second reading in the week under review. Of particular interest is the proposed amendment to the Central Bank Act as well as the rotation of power bill. We'll get the details of this after our notebook segment. Do stay tuned.
votes and proceedings are records of Senate plenary of a given day, prepared to provide accurate information about the plenary of that day, as well as the decisions taken and prayers adopted. The votes and proceedings having been prepared are read out by the presiding officer the following day for legislators to make observations for possible corrections where mistakes are made or adopted where there are no errors. With this done, they can now be transmitted for public consumption.
Welcome back. As I mentioned before the break, the Senate debated a bill to amend the Central Bank of Nigeria Act. It also considered the rotation of power bill alongside motions during plenary in the week under review. Let's get details of these deliberations in our next report, compiled and presented from our studio. Keep watching.
The Central Bank of Nigeria CBN Act 2007 Amendment Bill 2022 was sponsored by Senator Sadiq Suleiman Umar.
The objective of this bill includes 1. To enable the appointment of a person other than the governor as the chairman of the board of the CBN. 2. To divest the board of the powers of determining and fixing the salaries and allowances of its members. And 3. To consider and approve the annual budget of the bank, which lies solely with the National Assembly.
I don't believe that enough reasons, enough explanations has been advanced in this one-page lead debate. I would recommend that this thing be stepped down so that we'll be given step down so we can have more materials, to be able to make an informed judgment.
I know in the corporate world that the chief executive of an entity can't be the chairman of that entity. What this bill is trying to do is it cannot make the laws or amend the law governing this institution to go in conformity with what is obtainable in other climes in the world.
The issue that should come in the second reading should be a well-articulated, documented position on the current status of the central bank and its responsibilities vis-a-vis the responsibilities of central banks and other clients. Let's see how they are managing their own, how are we managing our own, and whether there is any substantive issue, that warrants changes that we should make to make our own much more responsible. But for us to sit down here and allow this thing to go, I don't think it does justice, to the importance of this institution in the nation's political firmament.
In view of the divergent opinions presented by the lawmakers, the Senate President put the matter to vote.
Those in favor that this bill be now read a second time, say aye. Aye. Those against, say nay. Nay. The ayes have it.
Consequently, the bill scaled second reading and was referred to the Committee on Banking to report back in 4 weeks. Another bill advocated legislative backing for power rotation among the various zones of Nigeria to entrench fair and equitable representation and also to avoid marginalization among the various parts of Nigeria. It was titled Rotation of Power Bill 2022 and sponsored by Senator Abamoro.
One of our duties as legislators is to protect the constitution of our dear country, Nigeria. And one way to do that is to support this bill because power rotation is a necessary lubricant that oils the federal character principle as enshrined in the Constitution.
The effective management of our diversity is what this bill seeks to address in such a way that feelings and perceptions of marginalization at all levels, at state and federal levels, and even within constituencies, can be addressed by the passage of this bill.
There was an opposition to the bill.
The danger of including rotation of holding political office in our law will do a great violence to our desire to live as a united country. So let me respectfully say that, Mr. Senate President, not only me, This Senate cannot legislate on this matter without doing a great violence to our Constitution.
After more arguments, the sponsor came under personal explanation to withdraw the bill.
I seek the indulgence of Mr. President and my colleagues to step down this bill and possibly represent it in the proper manner in subsequent sittings.
As a result, the bill was stepped down. Another bill read a second time was titled Bill to Regulate and Formalize the Employment of Domestic Workers, Apprenticeships, Interns and Other Informal Sector Employees in Nigeria. It was sponsored by Senator Sani Musa, who gave reason for the bill as being to empower the National Directorate of Employment (NDE) to issue license and monitor privately owned employment agencies whose responsibility will be to enroll employees in their data bank.
The primary goal of this bill is to regulate this sector to promote strategic objectives, the promotion of rights at work, employment, social protection, and social dialogue.
There are also situations where these same informal workers have had cause to deal with those who employ them. So the role this agency is going to play, I think, should look at both sides so that we protect those who are also employing at the same way we are also protecting those who are being employed.
The bill was then read a second time and referred to the Committee on Labour to report back in 4 weeks. Wednesday, the 28th of September 2022, the Senate made a case for the repair of the failed portions of the Bini, Okene as well as Bini Agbo roads. Coming through a motion titled Urgent Need to Intervene on the Failed Portions on the Bini Ekboma, Auchi Okene and Bini, Sapele, Iwu, Uromi, Agbo roads. Senator Clifford Odia lamented that the roads have failed due to aging, among other things.
These roads have been constructed for more than 3 decades. As a result of age, wear, and tear, certain portions of these roads are beginning to fail, and this development have caused untold hardship on commuters plying these roads.
We should encourage state governors to intervene in some areas. So therefore, Mr. President, I second this bill, but I also commend the federal government of President Buhari for doing the best it can in improvement of Nigerian roads.
One of the resolutions adopted was to urge the Federal Ministry of Works to commence the repair of the failed portion of the 2 roads, among other things. The Senate also considered a motion titled Urgent Need for Humanitarian Assistance to Victims of Flooding Across the Country, particularly Jigawa State. It was sponsored by Senator Nat'l Sankara alongside all the lawmakers. He lamented that the flood has caused the death of about 100 persons and the displacement of thousands others.
That the victim of disaster now take shelter in poorly organized centers like school buildings not affected by the flood. The urgent medical and humanitarian assistance are not deployed to the affected victim. A major health challenge may result from the disaster.
The motion was supported.
The issue of flooding in this country is a seasonal something. It's something that we always experience year in, year out. And I think it's high time the government look at it and come up with a lasting solution.
We should not just limit it to Nigeria. River Niger took its source from Mali, and it passed through Niger Republic to Nigeria. And if you look at River Benue, it has a link with Cameroon. So there are 4 countries involved. The 4 countries should come together and work out a flowing strategy so that when it's flowing from Mali to Niger Republic, by the time it gets to Nigeria, it should have been properly managed.
One of the resolutions adopted was to direct NEMA to coordinate with the state's emergency management agencies to urgently provide humanitarian assistance to the affected areas.
Welcome back. Earlier on, we took a review of debates and resolutions during plenary of the week spanning 26 to 28 September 2022, where we saw the Senate stepping down the Power Rotation Bill while passing the Court of Appeal Act Amendment Bill, approving the increase of judges of the Appeal Court from 90 to 110. These are amongst other resolutions reached on motions during deliberations. We will now take a report from the committee room, where an interactive session between the Joint Committee on Petroleum Upstream, Downstream and Gas and officials of the NNPC Limited was convened to rub minds on the state of the nation's refineries and the issue of subsidy regime, amongst other matters. Let's take that report.
The National Assembly or its committee has the power to...
The committee chairman gave clarification on the issues at hand in his welcome address.
The National Assembly is deeply concerned and worried. First, about the subsidy regime and the confusion surrounding it, because figures keep flying here and there. Today, they will say this, tomorrow, Nigeria is consuming 60 million barrels, tomorrow 80, next tomorrow 50. So, specifically, we are going to ask you these questions and we need a written documentation.
The representative of the Group Managing Director of the NNPC Limited, in a response, gave their plan for the rehabilitation of some of the nation's refineries.
The plan is that by end of Q1 2023, the Area 5, which is the old Port Harcourt refinery of 6,000 barrels per day, will be operational. The other 150,000 barrels per day, which is the new Port Harcourt refinery, will be operational by end of Q4 2024.
Committee members took turns to express their resentment on what they described as abnormalities in the nation's oil sector.
The whole country today, everyone is getting worried as to how we are going to manage 11-point-something trillion of deficits. We are made to understand that we're consuming over 60 million liters of oil per day.
The euphoria that came with the passage of the PIA seemed to have gone to a negative level right now because of the increase in oil theft. But so what happens to Nigerian businesses? What happens to the Nigerian people in terms of sourcing for diesel? Because I don't have any. You may have to tell us how much diesel you import, because so far we've been hearing about fuel importation. How much diesel have you been importing?
Please get us in writing all the rehabilitating components of the refinery, all the consumption that we have, the consumption Nigerians is the product PMS Nigeria is consuming till date, the issues that rovers oil theft, non-remittance of revenue to our national treasury, and then the swap arrangements. Thank you.
However, the absence of the GMD of the NNPC Limited, Mr. Mele Kyari, and the State Minister for Petroleum Resources, Timi Priye Silva, stalled efforts to respond to issues raised.
Is NNPC Limited claiming to be totally independent of the Minister of Petroleum, who is the President, or his Minister of State? If they can be answerable to the Minister of State, and indeed to the Minister of Petroleum, who happens to be doubling as the President of the country, how can they say they are not answerable to the Nigerian Parliament?
Today you have called this meeting, Mr. Chairman, and the prima facie, who is supposed to be here, send a letter. If the President of Nigeria called him, would he have abandoned? So he has so much disrespect for the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, whom we are representing the people of Nigeria.
I'm very angry and it's so disappointing.
We talk about theft of oil. Can the man on the street be involved in theft? Without the collaboration of those who know the business, those who are in the industry? The theft of crude in Nigeria is enough to destroy this country and break this country into pieces. There's no reason to continue with this thing.
As a result, The session was adjourned until when all the critical stakeholders appear before the committee, amongst who are the Minister of Petroleum Resources as well as the NNPC Limited GMD. Meanwhile, the new chairman of the Committee on FCT, Senator Smart Adeyemi, held an interactive session with committee stakeholders on the 22nd of September 2022. Speaking at the session, the chairman expressed the committee's commitment to taking the FCT to greater heights.
We work hand in hand as a team to improve the well-being, the infrastructural facilities, and the security situation of the city. We'll go out of our way to do some extra assignment just to make a difference and to make sure that we complement the effort and make this city good for every Nigerian to be proud of, to say Abuja is the capital of Nigeria.
Also speaking, a member of the committee advised on the proper exploration of the FCT's solid mineral resources to boost revenues.
I want to urge the FCT, okay, Minister, to partner, okay, with some relevant investors to harness these resources, to develop these resources, okay, so as to create employment opportunities for the rural dwellers and also enhance the internally generated funds, okay, of the FCT.
As a resolution, the committee agreed to increase the frequency of the meeting to regularize discussions aimed at further uplifting the status of the Federal Capital Territory as the nation's capital.
That's it from the committee rooms. Our profile segment is next. Stand by for our Senator of the Week.
Senator Ezenwa Onyewuchi represents Imo East Senatorial District under the People's Democratic Party (PDP). He was born in 1968. After basic and secondary education, during which he obtained his General Certificate of Education (GCE), he proceeded to the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, where he bagged a Bachelor of Science degree in Sociology. He also attended the Business School of the Enugu State University of Science and Technology for a master's degree in business administration. He was a businessman before joining politics in the year 2000. He contested and won election to the House of Representatives, where he represented Owerri Municipal, North and West Federal Constituency under the All Progressives Grand Alliance (APGA) from 2011 to 2015. He was re-elected, this time under PDP, and served from 2015 to 2019. He won election into the Senate to represent Imo East Senatorial District in the 2019 general elections, and he is still serving. He is a member of several committees of the Senate. His legislative interests include youth empowerment, skills acquisition, and industrialization.
With this, we end this week's edition of Inside the Senate. Keep a date with us next time for more as we bring you updates of bills, motions, and committee activities from the Senate wing of the National Assembly. Thanks for watching.